You know how it is. Establishing a startup, at the end of the day, it's a huge risk and a gamble. You're gambling here on a solution or on a manifest or a thesis that you have, and you hope that it will catch, or you have you are the one, or I was the biggest believer in it. But it takes time to convince other people to that it's true. We had, and I said it today, through this process, there was perhaps 10% skills, 20-30% the people that joined us along the way, and about 50-60% pure luck. That's how it is.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley in partnership with regtech, sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Synergy Global, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, Birthright Excel, Serona Partners, and in media partnership with CTech. Welcome to another episode of 20-Minute Leaders. Meet Shiran Weitzman, co-founder and CEO of Shield. He has over 20 years of technology and management expertise, mainly in the financial services vertical. Prior to Shield, Shiran was the head of sales at TM Group, managing the company's major Tier 1 bank accounts. Shiran brings to Shield many years as a trusted advisor and a subject matter expert in the financial compliance market. In early 2018, Shiran created Shield, a regtech company specializing in communications compliance with his longtime friend Ofir Shabtai. Shield is now 60 people spread across Israel, London, and New York. Shiran Weitzman, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm assuming from the Shield offices. How are you?
That's correct. Thank you. I'm very well. Looking forward to this conversation.
Same feeling here with me, because I think that the world is changing. The world is becoming more digital. Things are flowing much quicker. And if before you had a person facilitating a financial transaction or looking at what's happening in the financial markets and having that inherent regulatory spirit, today things are going a little bit haywire around the world, and your company Shield is dealing with compliance and regtech and financial services, and so very, very timely and appropriate. And the nice thing is that I know very little about this, so I get to learn from you for these 20 minutes. So Shiran, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. So indeed, it's the world is changing due to the pandemic. The change has been accelerated as well. But the world is changing. Things are becoming much more digital, where the communication is in the center of this the center of this transformation. And I would say perhaps less in Israel, but globally, communicating with your banker or communicating internally within the bank is done mostly via digital channels.
Mm-hmm.
And we established Shield about 4 years ago, mm-hmm. with a goal to help their financial firm to manage and mitigate any risk out of the electronic communications. What we do is we basically developed a platform. It's a workplace compliance or workplace intelligent compliance platform that detects, basically captures any sort of electronic communication from any channels, mm-hmm. manage the data, and detects behavioral anomalies and behaviors, right? Or behaviors and anomalies within electronic communication that can lead to market manipulation or any employee conduct.
And give me an example, because it sounds a little theoretical, but I'm sure there's very practical use cases where these things can come about.
Fantastic. So two examples, right? First of all, the first one can be front running or something that the people may know more, insider dealing, right? Insider trading. I know information on something that I shouldn't share with you because I am part of a deal, right? I am participating in a deal. I know information. I shouldn't expose it outside, but I am. When I'm exposing it to you, you can do things with it. You can buy, you can sell, you can influence, you can earn money out of it. That's illegal. That's market manipulation. People can go to prison. The bank that facilitated this or the financial firm where you work can get a huge fine because of it. That's one example. Another example is something less market manipulation, more in the world of conduct. Things like colluding or gifts and entertainment, right? As a banker, I am not allowed, or as my banker, let's say my banker is not allowed to get gifts from me, right? Not only that, I'm not even allowed. He's not even allowed to get me paying for lunch, according to the bylaws of the bank, right? Why is that? Because it can be during this conversation and during this lunch or during this event or a night out, things can be manipulative.
Right.
Things can influence transactions. I can get benefits. A lot of things that can happen. So therefore, these things are not allowed. Um, Today, by the way, there are new categories in the world of conduct, such as sexual harassment and bullying within the electronic communication, that are starting to be very interesting to firms to understand how the move to a very remote and online or hybrid workplace is impacting the workplace behavior, the
Right.
behaviors of their employees. Because one of the main characteristics of what we do is that when you are in the office or when you are face to face, there is something that prevents people, not everyone, by the way, 99% of the people are solid, honest, respectful, etc. We are talking about this 1%, maybe a fraction of that. And what characterizes that people usually have a little bit more respect when they are in an office, when they are in a face-to-face. Look, my office here, everything is glasses, right? Because we believe in transparency, right? So people don't do certain things in the office, right? But what happens when everyone move to remote work? What happens when people are not there? So suddenly, in our little world of little, but very chunky world of capital market, suddenly traders move to work from the kitchen, and even the people that are, it's a human thing, it's a human behavior. Even if you're not a criminal, if you're not a manipulative person, but suddenly you have a potential to do things faster, to shortcut the corner, right? That's how we call it in Hebrew. I shortcut the corner, right? I'm not allowed to use my phone, but suddenly I'm using it because it's shorter to close things rather than to wait and to send an email, right? But it's illegal for me to do that, but I'm doing that. And then someone is telling me some information, but okay, write it to me in WhatsApp, then WhatsApp is not monitored. Things that are easier to do when you're in the office and when you are at home, but when you will be in the office, people will see that you touch your iPhone. This is it. On the other hand, the compliance officer, the office police, right?
Yep.
The ones that are responsible for the conduct and the market abuse, they also sit at home, walking, looking at the computer and looking at the screen, and there is no one there. So you know how it is when no one is walking the floor, the cats are free.
Right.
That's the world where we are now, and it's relevant, very relevant for market manipulation. It's becoming much more relevant for the I would say healthy workplace, things like bullying, sexual harassment, and other things that happens in workplace. It happens. Full stop. It happens. People, we just suddenly we get record of it.
Definitely.
So these are things that we are doing. Some of them are mandated and regulated. Everything related to capital market, everything related to financial firms are mandated, are must do by the firms. And as we grow, and as people are moving to a much more hybrid, I guess we are both members of this Twitter and the FinTech in the Twitter account. And people are, no one will go back to a full working day in the office or a
Definitely.
full week in the office, right?
100%.
So this is the reality, and we need to handle the reality. So the amount of chatter, the amount of communication, the volume has grown dramatically. Everything was, switched to an online,
No,
facilitation, I would say,
definitely. So I
right?
want to ask you, Shilan, because right before I want to hear the story of Shield and then the founding of Shield. But a second before that, you were mentioning the example of market manipulation, insider information, information that transpasses without it being, okay to. But to me, it sounds a little bit subjective. That there a clear cut rule on what sentences you are allowed to say and what sentences you are not allowed? Because I'm asking now in the context of a technology that aims to help a chief compliance officer maintain regulation in the organization. How do you go about leveraging technology to help facilitate those types of conversations?
So it's a very good questions. First of all, everything is subjective in what we do, even if it was a transaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where transaction there are monitoring capabilities that are a mathematical rule, but it's a subjective element. Um, Eventually, the compliance officer who is buying the solution, he is the one that officially signing it and approving it, and is able to also claim to the regulator, given if it will be the FCA or the SEC or the CFTC. I have reviewed it. I understand the rules. I understand the behavioral models, and I can defend it. Right. This is the life of compliance. This is why, by the way, they are earning a lot of money. They should, because they are responsible for a lot of for many activities there. But bottom line is that we are not specifically looking at sentences or word, etc. We also, but what we are looking is we are looking on the context and the sentiments and overall behaviors. Behaviors are not specifically driven from a word or a sentence, but from the position of the persons,
Yes.
from the time of the day, from a lot of relevant parameters that may lead to that. And we also have the history of the human of this person. We also know what he is allowed to do. If someone um, if a person is I don't know, an FX trader, right, and suddenly we see him doing many activities in crypto, something is wrong. It's not that it's completely not allowed, but we need to understand there is an anomaly here. And there are other things. Suddenly we see people are doing a lot of much bigger transaction than they used to. Suddenly we see people very active in a specific channel and not on not their normal channels of operations. Something is happening. There is there are a lot of parameters. There is a lot of I would say AI or NLP characteristics that providing red line or red flags or white flags in this sense to many behaviors. And that's some of the things that we are looking here, and not the specific. The looking at words or sentences, it's an old-fashioned technology that was looking into word spotting um, or a detection based on it's not a subjective, but it's very lacking the context. That's the words, right? The context is very, very, very important. If I'm telling you now that I am resolving market abuse, but you recorded it and you looking at it, then it will hit an alert in an old-fashioned technology. What we are doing, it would probably be reduced. The noise will be reduced.
Definitely.
And noise is very, very important to reduce it, because otherwise we are exhausting the compliance team, and the compliance team is very expensive.
Yeah.
And one of our goals is to reduce the cost or to increase efficiency in a
Definitely.
compliance teams.
Take me back to the founding of Shield. Wow, how does your career end up in the convergence of Shield, and what was the starting days like?
Starting days where we were in an office, perhaps this size, three persons there. Look, we maybe before that. In my career, when I was a software developer, I was a pre-sale, I was doing sales, I was doing sales management, I was doing a lot of these things. Um, before establishing Shield, I had an advisory firm, and one of the things that I was doing was helping financial firms to build complex solutions. Right. One of the challenges that I once faced was related to electronic communications and electronic communication compliance. And through the process that I went by looking at the problem, but detailed review of the challenge, reviewing and selecting vendors in order to comply with the challenge or to buy licenses. I understand that it's an old-fashioned. We're talking about old-fashioned vendors trying to resolve the challenges or new challenges that are just about to increase. We are talking about 2014, by the way, that I first run into this really looked into this. 2013, 2014. Think about it. Teams wasn't available. Even the Slack was very early days. WhatsApp wasn't very used. The electronic communication domain was primarily email and the Bloomberg chat, Thomson Reuters chat, voice calls. Right. This was the primary channels. But we iPhone was becoming much more
a common
spread, common and spread, and electronic communications and the ease of instant messages became much more clear. And I saw the trend on one hand. On the other hand, I see that firms are looking into the problem as a point solution, right? How can I resolve this and this only? No one was looking on or reviewing the complete challenge of electronic communication compliance, A to Z, end to end. So we found out seeing platforms or seeing solutions. By the way, some of them are competitors now that are doing only the capture, right? So they have a lot of connectors or connector capability to connect to the channels. That's it. And then you have vendors that can do the data management. And then there are vendors that can do the analytics. There wasn't one that can do everything. But, it was 2014, it was still early days, and I was buying from one competitor this and one Shield wasn't existed back then. So from one vendor, and then I started to implement it, or we started to implement it with this bank. And it took us ages. And every little change, every little a change in the format, change in the API was crashing the entire solution. It wasn't scalable. It wasn't. But the problem was existing. So it was very expensive process for that customer and very lengthy, and that triggered me to understand that there is a real problem here, and allowed me to go further into the rabbit hole and look for other regulations and other domains that it may be relevant. And you know how it is. Establishing a startup, at the end of the day, it's a huge risk and a gamble. You're gambling here on a solution or on a manifest or a thesis that you have. And you hope that it will catch, or you have you are the one, or I was the biggest believer in it. But it takes time to convince other people to that it's true. We had, and I said it today, through this process, there was perhaps 10% skills, 20-30% the people that joined us along the way, and about 50-60% pure luck. That's how it is. It is what it is.
I love it.
And you need to be in the right place in the right time with the right amount of funding and the right team. So it's a condensed luck, or it's a luck that you help him be very lucky. But yeah. That's the story.
If you're looking, Shiran, into the future of Shield, because you're mentioning here that it's not just what you're discovering until now, but you're discovering that this is a trend that is going to continue growing and it will go into more domains. Where do you see Shield positioned within the market?
So, look, we currently are working with financial firms around financial transactions and financial advice. It's all around regulated domains or regulated markets. But we see electronic communication as an infrastructure for people to communicate, to exchange ideas, to do bad stuff, to do good stuff. Things will happen much more digitally. And what we want to see, or the way we see Shield in the future, is expanding into not only risk platform, but also an insight platform. So we will be able to help not only financial firms, but any firm to mitigate the risk out of it. So we talked about it, sexual harassment or any conduct, right? So to mitigate risk, but not only that, to reveal insights coming from internal and external communication, basically any type of communication. So if you, as a firm, would like to understand, just as an example, ESG now is a big thing, right? So you have an ESG targets, right? But you want to understand as a firm, how are your employees compliant with the ESG policies that you threw out there or you announced, right? One method is to see what are the solutions that they're offering to their customers. If it's a sales organization, if it's a support organization, what are the alternatives that they are offering to their customers? And internally, there are probably an internal KPIs that we are able to measure through understanding of the email, through understanding of the voice conversation, through understanding of their internal Teams or Slack communications. So any risk on one hand and insight on the other hand are of interest for us, and we believe that it should be an enterprise grade platform outside of financial firms as well.
Amazing, Shiran. I love this conversation. Thank you very much for your time and for your energy. This was really, really great. And obviously, I think Shield is in a very timely place. And I love how you're attributing, both the skills and the team members, but also to the fact that in the right place in the right time. And I think that that's often a factor that we take for granted when we think about success. And but at the end, it's all about execution. Even if there
It
was the
is.
luck, you still need the good execution in order to in
Yeah,
order to get to work.
and I think that people are, and one of the things that is important for us is that eventually we want to do good things, right? We don't want to, we want to be able to influence a more transparent markets, a more transparent workplace. So the values that are in the basis of the software that we are creating are very positive, and we are very proud of it. And that's one of the things that we would like to maintain as well.
Fantastic. Shiran, toda rabba. Thank you very much and stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.